Hello Internet, my name is Billy, and this is your Guide to the Ventureverse, a YouTube series in which I look at each episode of the Venture Brothers and give a brief synopsis, point out interesting facts, talk about its place in the greater canon of the show, and finish it off with some personal thoughts about the episode. In today's video, we will discuss Season 1, Episode 11 of the Venture Brothers, Past Tense. This episode first aired on October 16th, 2004. Let's get into it. Dr. Venture, Brock, Pete, and Baron Underbite attend the funeral for their old college friend Mike Soriyama. We learn through a series of flashbacks that Mike Soriyama has a reason to be angry with each of them, and the funeral turns out to be a ruse to gather them all together and capture them. Hank and Dean are left behind and enlist the help of the aging original Team Venture to track the captured adults down. Mike Soriyama is a character that is one part Mike Yanagita from the movie Fargo.
Oh, and then I saw you on the TV, and I remembered, I always liked you.
Well, I always liked you,
I always liked you so much.
And one part Hajime Soriyama, the artist who paints a lot of sexy robots. For the longest time, I didn't realize that the actor who played Mike Yanagita in Fargo, Steve Park, actually provided the voice for Mike Soriyama's character. For a good chunk of time, and maybe still to this day, I'm not sure, this episode was never shown in reruns. All that's known for certain is there was a little legal issue with this episode. Fans have long speculated that the issue had to do with the design of the Leslie bots being too close to Hajime Soriyama's art. Totally just making stuff up here, don't take any of this to heart, but maybe because Dr. Venture refers to the heavy metal magazine in which the art was featured, it can no longer be protected under parody law, as it's now just a character intentionally copying something that another artist created. Again, not a lawyer, so who knows? In the flashback scenes of this episode, Jackson and Doc utilize some classic sitcom devices. They explain in the art book. But the tone of this episode was weird, because I had a bunch of nerds sitting around in a college dorm room making bad jokes to each other because they're not professional comedy writers, and that's a tricky line to walk between actually writing bad jokes on a TV show and the characters making bad jokes. One of the ways we tried to solve it, because it felt weird and it just wasn't working, was by using those Happy Days wipes and putting a laugh track on it. Dr. Venture and Pete White liken Baron Underbite's hair to that of the Incredible Hulk and Pete Rose. If you're unfamiliar with either of these names, here's a side-by-side with Baron Underbite. I won't typically explain callbacks that occur within the same episode, but at the beginning of the episode, Dr. Venture wonders,
How does my father always know when I'm in my room?
And by the end of the episode, we find out that he actually had a tracking device implanted in one of his molars. This is the sort of gag you're only likely to catch on a repeat viewing of the episode. If you got it the first time, congratulations, you're much smarter than me. We see the Action Man's wife in this episode. She was previously in Ghost of the Sargasso, but I didn't mention that she kind of disappears from the show. Later on in the series, the Action Man is single, with no reference to what happened to her. Another thing that was sort of set up in the first season and forgotten about later was this character affectation with Brock, where he'd just sort of go into a blind rage and beat up / kill anyone and anything in his path. It happens back in college with Dr. Venture, Pete, Underbite, and Mike, and in the present with the original Team Venture dressed as Leslie bots. So reading through the art book in preparation for this episode, I was kind of struck by how down on it Jackson and Doc seem. This is one of my favorite episodes of the season. I think the only thing I don't really like in this episode is the Action Man repeatedly farting. But I actually do think it's pretty funny when the random college kid says, "Dude, you beefed," after no one acknowledges it the whole rest of the episode. Something that I think is really cool about this episode is that it features Pete White, but not Billy Quizboy. Billy and Pete are a team, but it doesn't really make sense for Billy to be in this episode. So many other shows would have Billy be a part of the episode just because, but not the Venture Brothers. As the series goes on, it will become very apparent that the Venture Brothers is fine breaking up comedic duos for the sake of telling a good story. That is just one of many reasons why the Venture Brothers is so special. As always, thank you for watching, and go Team Venture! Tune in next week for Trial of the Monarch. If you dug this video, share it with a friend, and if there was some huge glaring thing that I missed in this video, Subscribe to my Patreon to see these videos a week early and offer your input before I upload the final product.